So growing up in the dizzying cultural anarchy of New York, I've learned that there are two kinds of first-generation immigrants. And I can say this pretty confidently, because of all cities, there's no place that will give you a better sample size than my hometown. There are the hyphen wearers and the hyphen ditchers. The hyphen wearers are those that will qualify their identity with a big fat hyphen. Mexican-American, Korean-American, Nigerian-American, the American part always comes second. And these are those that don't want to relinquish a claim to their little patch of culture, their plot of metaphorical soil in whatever motherland, where roots dig deep and unbroken into the earth. The hyphen ditchers, meanwhile, are American and nothing but. As far as they're concerned, they're a part of this country as much as any third or fourth gen who came over on a freaky-ass boat. America is meant to receive roots transplanted from other places, and so the ditchers plunge and curl theirs into its soil without any hesitation. My relationship to my own hyphen is complicated. My folks are both foreigners. My dad's Greek and my mom's Filipino, and they met at grad school at Stony Brook in New York. Now, the point of their program was to come to the States, learn up, and go back and contribute to their home countries. And my parents happily reneged on the duty to lift up the motherland and stayed here to raise a family. For reasons I'm still unsure about, maybe because the Philippines, being on the literal other side of the world, is as big a drag to get to as Ellis Island once was. Or maybe because my mom read a bullshit book that said trilingualism messes up young kids' brains. My dad went cultural hegemony in the house, and I grew up influenced by Greek culture. I go there every summer, I speak the language fluently, and each time the plane touches down and I head over, my heart surges and overflows in the way only a home can make it do. But of course I spent my whole life in New York City. I was super proud of my Greekness though. In fact, I was straight up obnoxious about it. And I talk all kinds of shit about Americans as if I somehow weren't one. Though this wasn't completely my fault. The anti-American sentiment in my house was sometimes on some Fidel Castro level shit. It was signaled to me constantly that Americanness was the thing that would infect my system and spawn all sorts of character flaws. Because Americans don't know how to save money. Americans don't know how to raise their children. Americans think being bad at school is a virtue. Americans are madly, bizarrely in love with stuff. You have to have more than one of everything. My mom had this especially intense beef with sleepovers, which she thought were the most horrifying ritual ever. Am I too poor to have my child sleep under my own roof comfortably? She demanded of 10-year-old me, who didn't really know what to say except the classic, "Mom, everyone does it though." "No," she rejoined, "you have a house and family, plus it's pervs everywhere, don't forget that." With these caricatures installed in my mind, I'd wear my Greekness like those motherfuckers at soccer games wear their flags. Excuse you, I'm not American, I'm European, thank you very much. Americans are lazy, overweight, and culturally bankrupt, and their food is bad. Oh yeah, I go back to the homeland every summer. I was basically raised there. I practically lived there, etc., etc., etc. It was fake as fuck and probably drove a lot of people crazy. And I might have pulled it off forever too if it weren't for certain tensions underlying my identity. Ones that I could only resolve by about-facing and finally claiming Americanness. Let me explain. So my mom is one of these Filipinos with indigenous blood, dark, curvy, jet black features, and these manifested themselves in a more muted form in me. Now, Greece is one homogeneous country, and there's a Greek phenotype that my brown girl ass will never fit. Because Greek girls have that Southern European look that you find from Spain to Turkey, and to say that I stick out like a sore thumb over there is understating things. I stick out more like a coconut tree in a cornfield. I feel welcome in my dad's new town because he's beloved there and everyone knows he married a Filipino, something that baffles them but that they accept. Nonetheless, I'm aware that my status as Greek is qualified. I'm aware that I'm an outlier. I'm aware that Greek boys considered me too exotic to date growing up, and that if I'd ended up living there, I would have been called either the Filipinesa or the Kinazula, which was the little Chinese girl, because to Greeks, all Asians are Chinese, or the Melakini, darky, because whatever is your most salient non-Greek attribute is the one Greeks will tag you with forever. And it's occurred to me that the situation could have been darker still. Because literally one block down from my grandmother's house over there sits this collapsed, tragic-looking shed thing, which I've learned is remnants of a fire that a right-wing extremist set to scorch out some Pakistanis squatting in it. I've been mistaken for virtually every other brown ethnicity on the earth, because Greek Filipino is not a thing, including this one. And it could be way irrational and way insulting to those who are actually in danger to suggest that I would ever be heard in Greece. I acknowledge this, but still, stuff like this gives me pause. In New York, meanwhile, in the US, that land of sleepovers and Mickey D's, supposedly, I'm not an outlier. I am in the sense that I'm biracial, that's still not a thing for a lot of people. But I can walk around my hometown not feeling like an anomaly, and that's what I love about it. You can't really point to an average New Yorker. The data points are too scattered. We look and act and are too many different ways. It's true that New York itself is a unique place. My mom mentioned to me once, offhand, that she chose to raise me and my little siblings there because she didn't want our lives to be difficult as mixed-race children. Implied in that statement is that we could have found ourselves in a place where people take issue with half-bloods like us. Nonetheless, this country gave me New York, gave me and my family our home. And no matter how much of a cultural island the city is treated as sometimes, it's here. My weird mix, always in between us, has a place to park itself without too much discomfort. So what could I call myself, honestly, aside from the Greek, Filipino, American? I acknowledge that things are not looking great right now for people in this country that look like my mom and me, even in New York. I won't by any means trivialize the experiences of people who actually fear being thrown out or blocked in by comparing myself to them. My countries are not on any hit list, and I've been a citizen since 13. But the skies are darkening, and whatever your ideological stance on this, it can't be denied that it's descending towards our heads. Nonetheless, these skies are our skies, and we will stand beneath them. They're my skies, and they're the skies of every American, including the hyphenated, including the multicolored, and including the in-between weirdos like